Oh, okay. Hare Krishna. Well, just in case any of you were not here on Friday night or last night, I've just been asked to give a brief introduction to His Holiness Bhakti Caitanya Swami Maharaj. He originally joined, this is a bit ad hoc, so you can correct me if I'm wrong. Joined in London in the early days, so a very senior disciple of Srila Prabhupada, but then helped to develop the South African yatra for many decades. Maharaj has been a GDC member for a few decades, I think. Chairman several times, I think also. 3 times. So somebody who is very experienced in Krishna consciousness, in management, and also, of course, in the tasteful Rasa Leela, not Rasa Leela, Vrindavan Leela, I should say. So let's give him a warm welcome by chanting loudly, Haribol! 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 Haribol!
Thank you so much for the warm introduction. Very nice. And wonderful to be here with you all. I hope everyone is okay. And yes, we are today going to talk for a little while about the matchless gifts of Lord Caitanya. And Lord Caitanya is here with us, of course. Shishi Gornitai Ki Jai. What are their names? Nitai Gaura Chandra Ki Jai. They're so beautiful. Sure. Really nice. So yeah, the matchless gifts of Lord Caitanya. Let's see how it goes. So first of all, you can repeat after me. Jai Jai Sri Caitanya Jai Nityananda.
Jai Jai Sri Caitanya Jai Nityananda.
Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jai Jai Sri Caitanya Jai Nityananda.
Jai Jai Sri Caitanya Jai Nityananda.
Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jai Jai Sri Caitanya Jai Nityananda.
Jai Jai Sri Caitanya Jai Nityananda.
Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastityade Shatarane Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vajkamtruvya Sakripa Sindhya Evacha, Paritana Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So devotees, I think, at least from what I'm told, You're all very experienced devotees, and you know all about Lord Caitanya and Lord Nityananda. So I'm assuming, I'm sure even, that whatever I'm going to try and say today, you all heard it multiple or even a multitude of times, which is okay because, you know, Srila Prabhupada said that repetition of a good thing is good. It's good for you. Yes, that. Well, you know, like reading Bhagavad Gita, for example, I'm sure you all read Bhagavad Gita a number of times even. And each time, if you try and study seriously and carefully, then you find each time you discover new things in the same book. And they say, well, not exactly they say, but it's a fact. In Russia, I suspect not many of you have been to Russia. Have you been to Russia? I didn't think so. Anyway, I've been there so many times. And in Russia, there is a culture of baking cakes. And they are multi-layered. Each layer is like, you know, what would you say, a couple of millimeters. And there's all these different layers, and really a lot of them, in a cake which is, say, this thick. And as you bite in, you go from one taste, there's a fruit layer, then next is some sort of cream layer, and the next layer is something else. And as you go step by step through the cake, you just get one taste after another. It's really interesting. So Bhagavad Gita, or just all of the Vedic literatures, particularly what Srila Prabhupada gave us, they're like that. You can go on studying the same, even one book, just one book, every day, for years, for your whole life. And by the end of your life, you will still be discovering new things. Even though you've been reading it maybe, I don't know, 50 years or something, you'll still be discovering new things. So, well, I'll tell you one thing that I was told when I first joined in London, Seven Berry Place, in 1973, January 1973. They told me, and they now means the devotees, the devotees told me that Prabhupada said, they said that Prabhupada said that if you read Bhagavad Gita 27 times, it becomes part of you. What do you think of that? I don't know if Prabhupada said it really, but, I think there would be a lot of truth in it actually, because you just immerse yourself deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper until it kind of permeates your being. So similarly, I'm making this point because I'm going to tell you a few things which I'm assuming you've heard before a number of times. And so try not to worry about it. Try just to listen to it and don't think, oh no, not this story again. Don't do like that. Just listen and sort of bathe in it, or drink it, or something like that. Just immerse yourself in it. So the first one I want to tell you, it's one of my favorites actually. It's one of my favorite stories. That, and this was in Goloka, Vrindavan Dham. And one day, Rukmini, the main queen of Lord Krishna, she was in her palace. As I'm sure you know, Krishna has 16,180 wives. Each wife had their own palace. Yeah. So Rukmini, she's the chief wife. So she had a palace, I'm sure it was very grand and wonderful. And she got the message. This was kind of early-ish morning or something like that. She got this message. WhatsApp message. I don't know if they had WhatsApp then. Maybe it was just SMS or telex or something. But she got a message that your husband Krishna is coming to your palace. He's just now coming. So, get ready. So she quickly, really quickly gathered her assistants and they cleaned the place in like seconds and just got everything really nice. And then she waited at the door. And sure enough, devotees and friends, Krishna came. And Rukmini met him right at the front door. And when she met him there, he's like in the doorway. He hasn't actually entered, and she's there meeting him. And Rukmini just dropped to the ground to offer obeisances to her husband. Dropped to the ground on his feet, not at his feet, but actually on his actual feet, because she was in such ecstasy to see her beloved Krishna. And while she was like holding his feet, she was crying and just bathing Krishna's lotus feet with her tears. So it was very profound. And Krishna is standing there, looking down. I say, what jolly music. I shouldn't have said that, should I? She's in a distressed condition. But you can tell a person's character by the ringtone of their telephone. Quite revealing. So there's Krishna in the doorway, like the door's here, and Krishna's just a foot or even less away, and Rukmini's in the doorway on his feet, crying, bathing his lotus feet in her tears. And Krishna could not understand what's going on, what happened. What happened? What is happening? Kya ho raha hai? What is going on here? And Krishna said to Rukmini, he said, what happened? Are you all right? What happened? Did I upset you? Did I do something wrong? And Rukmini looked up and said, no, I'm just so happy to see you. Oh, it's just so wonderful. And again she cried on his feet, and Krishna said, but you don't do this normally. I mean, you husbands, some of you are husbands, right? Do your wives do that? Not every time. Occasionally. Not in that, I'm just joking. I know how it works. So Krishna, so she's crying again on his feet. And Krishna is saying, Rukmini, what happened? Tell me, please, what have I done? And again, Rukmini says, no, I'm just so happy to see you, which was the case, actually. And Krishna is like, gosh, I don't understand. But anyway, she took him inside. And inside, like in the entrance hallway kind of room, she seated him on a throne, and then again she fell on his lotus feet and started crying again on his lotus feet. And again Krishna just couldn't understand. And again he asked her, what is it? What have I done? Please tell me. Please tell me. And Krishna said, I know. You haven't got over that time when I was joking with you and I told you that you're a great princess, and who am I? Who am I? And Krishna said, actually, people don't know who I am or what I am. Am I a cowherd boy? Am I a philosopher? Am I a prince? Or what am I? People don't know. So I am sort of a nondescript entity, and you are a great princess, royalty, high-level royalty. And Krishna says, and I told you then that you should just leave me. Just leave me. I don't deserve to have you as a wife. So just leave me. And go find a really suitable young man, a real prince or king, high-level royalty. Go on. Just, stop wasting your time with me. He's joking, of course. And he knows how deeply Rukmini is attached to him. But he said like that. And Rukmini, when she heard this, and this idea that maybe she should just walk out just like that, she became so overwhelmed, she fainted. And Prabhupada says she fell just like a big banana palm. You have to check out your banana palms around Leicester. And just a big banana palm blown over by the wind, just straight over, crash. That's what happened to her. So Krishna said, you're still angry with me, aren't you? And I can tell. I can tell. And Rukmini said, no, I'm not angry with you. I'm just so happy to see you. I just can't get over it. Because even though she sees Krishna every day, can you imagine Krishna is so ever fresh and beautiful and wonderful? Every day it was just the same incredible experience seeing Krishna. Because Krishna is so beautiful. Yes, and it's described here and there, like Nectar of Devotion that's mentioned and other places too. How Krishna was so beautiful that when people would see him, sometimes they would faint. And even sometimes big warriors, big powerful kshatriyas, they would see Krishna and just faint on the ground. Even sometimes they fall off if they're sitting on an elephant, just fall right off, crash, or sitting on a horse. They just fall off, being so overwhelmed by Krishna's beauty. Did anyone ever faint when they saw you? Hare Krishna lady, did anyone faint when they saw you?
No, not faint, but they dance in ecstasy.
Oh! Now we're talking about, well, okay, that's good. You make them dance in ecstasy. That's better than fainting. Any of you gentlemen? Anyone faint when they saw you? Just once? Not even once? Really, what happened? Oh, when they saw him. It's his pullover, I think. So anyway, sorry, I'm diverting. So yeah. And so Krishna, Rukmini said, no, I'm just so happy to see you. It's just, I'm just so ecstatic. And Krishna said, but I don't understand. How is it like this? I don't understand. And Rukmini said, that is the problem, my Lord. You don't understand. She said, even though you are Sarvagya, you are omniscient, means you just know everything. But there's one thing that even you don't know, and that is how much your devotees love you. You just don't understand it. You just don't understand it. But you need to understand it. If you're really going to be God and be all-knowing, you need to understand this. And for Krishna, it was really, like, wow, sure, that's a point. That is a good point. So he asked Rukmini, how am I going to understand? You're right, I need to understand this, but how will I understand? And Rukmini said, you have to become a devotee. It's the only way. If you're just watching from the outside how the devotees act and what they do and so on, that's something. But to really understand, you have to become a devotee. And Krishna said, yes, you're right. I have to become a devotee. But how am I going to do that? What will I do? How will it work? At that moment, devotees, are you still awake? Yeah. At that moment, Narada Muni came out. And Narada Muni, Lord Krishna saw, Narada Muni is actually upset. He's in a disturbed state. And Krishna wondered, well, what happened to Narada Muni? Because Narada Muni, generally, he is just ecstatic completely. Because he's a great preacher. And preachers are always ecstatic. So, but here now is Narada Muni, and he is quite upset. So, Narada Muni came, offered his obeisances, and Lord Krishna asked him, what happened? What happened to you? I can see that you are not happy. I don't think I ever saw you like that. What happened? Tell me what happened. So Narada Muni said, I was just down on planet Earth in the four-headed brothers universe, and there it's Kali Yuga. And I was trying to preach, but it was really difficult. It was extremely difficult. And I went to one place, some place in a country called, what was it called? Angleland, or something along those lines. And I went to one town called, what was it? Leslie's brother. Leicester. What was it? Leicester. Leicester. And things were really bad there. Wow. I tried to preach to the people. It was impossible. They wouldn't listen to me. They wouldn't stop for me. Gee. And I understood. I tried. I really tried. I couldn't do a thing. And then I understood, my Lord, that in order to deliver these people in Angle land, in this Leicester, the only way we're going to be able to help these people is if you come. You're going to have to come. Otherwise, no chance. They're finished. Completely finished. Out the window. Had it. No possibility. So you're going to have to come. But then, no, he said a very important thing. The thing is this, my Lord. If you come like you normally come, Supreme Personality of Godhead, doing super duper things, superhuman, lifting Govardhan Hill, and all these types of things, then, you know, these people in Kali Yuga, in this Leicester place, they're so stupid. You know what they're going to do? They're going to try to imitate you. And we'll have all these fake avatars, or many of them, there will be. Because when you come, you know, you make such an impression on the whole situation, they'll all want to come copy you. So you cannot come as you normally do. But you know, because they're going to copy you. So what you have to do, you have to come as a devotee. That's what you have to do. Because then they'll copy you. It means they'll become devotees. So that's what you have to do. And Lord Krishna, he was ecstatic. You're right. That's it. That's it. I'm going to come as a devotee in Kali Yuga to this Earth planet, four-headed brothers universe, and I don't know if I'll visit this Angle land place, but anyway, I'll come as a devotee. But then he turned to Rukmini. Now, which devotee am I going to come at like? Your sort of average run-of-the-mill devotee? Or what devotee? And Rukmini said, you have to come as Srimati Radharani, the topmost devotee. And then when they see you and they see your devotion, they'll just be completely overpowered. And they'll all become devotees. And so Lord Krishna became ecstatic and suddenly is absorbed in this mood. I'm going to come as a devotee, as Radharani in Kali Yuga. He transformed into Lord Caitanya. And they say, them, you're another them, the ones who say things. Anyway, they say this was the first time that Krishna manifested the form of Lord Caitanya. Having said that, there are a number of stories in which Krishna manifests as Lord Caitanya, and they say it was the first time. So, don't worry. There can be many first times. It's not a problem at all. This is Krishna consciousness. So, right. So, there you go. This is, we're talking about the matchless gifts. of Lord Caitanya. And it all goes back to Lord Krishna, because Lord Caitanya is Krishna. It's not exactly that Krishna is not exactly a form of Lord Caitanya, but Lord Caitanya is a form of Krishna. There's one interesting story about involving Srila Prabhupada, that Srila Prabhupada, one devotee who was at Achyutananda, approached Prabhupada in Calcutta right in the very early days, when we had just started renting the same building we're still using as a temple in Calcutta. I think we may have bought it since then, but we were renting at that time. And there was, the owner was a Mr. Roy. Yes, a Mr. Roy. And Mr. Roy, there's a reasonable number of people in India who know something about Krishna and Dharma and such things, but they rarely think they know a lot. So this Mr. Roy, he thought he really knew what was what with Lord Krishna and Lord Caitanya. So he sort of cornered this young devotee, Achyutananda Swami. He'd only been a devotee, I don't know, not 5 years, or maybe 5 years, but not more. So he cornered him and started lecturing him. And you know what he told him? He told him that, Lord Caitanya came first. And then from him came Radha and Krishna. Yes. And he tried to push that sort of idea that Radha and Krishna come from Lord Caitanya, and Lord Chaitanya is more beautiful and greater than Radha and Krishna. And he said, just like a rasgulla is better than milk and sugar. So Lord Chaitanya is like a rasgulla, Radha and Krishna are like milk and sugar, and what's better? Anyway, rasgulla, that's the idea. Well, I'll tell you what's really better is Ras Malai, actually. I'll tell you what's even better. If you've ever met it in person, face to face, is Chum Chum. Are you familiar with Chum Chum? If not, you have wasted at least 10% of your life. And the best Chum Chum on this planet is from the Giriraj sweet shop in Govardhan town, if you know that place. It's really amazing. So, right, yes. But it's kind of like rasgulla. It's a relative. It's like a cousin of rasgulla. So anyway, this man used the example of rasgulla. What's nicer, milk and sugar or rasgulla? What do you say? Hare Krishna, lady. I thought you were going to say, chanting Hare Krishna.
That is its ultimate.
Yes, you got it. So this Achyutananda Swami, he presented this to Prabhupada and asked him, what is the real story? And Prabhupada, so the question said, who comes first? And Prabhupada said, Radha and Krishna come first. And Prabhupada said, just like with rasgulla, the milk and sugar comes first. Obviously, the rasgulla doesn't come first. And then from it you get milk and sugar. So this man, Mr. Roy, he was kind of mixed up. So yes, so then Achyutananda Swami asked Prabhupada, well, okay, Radha and Krishna came first, so who is the greatest? who is the greatest? And Srila Prabhupada thought momentarily, and Prabhupada said, Radharani is the greatest. And there was a picture, we got a picture of Radha Krishna again. But there was a picture there in that room of Lord Krishna kneeling at Radharani's feet. And Krishna was massaging her feet and trying to pacify her because she had become a little transcendently upset with her. Yeah, so Prabhupada said, yes, Radharani is the greatest. And then he said, actually, the devotees are the greatest. And therefore, Krishna becomes the servant of the devotees. So we have to have that kind of perspective on Lord Caitanya. That he's a form of Krishna. But he's Radha and Krishna combined. And mainly, he is manifesting as Radharani. Mainly, because he is in the mood of a devotee. And, even Lord Caitanya, if the devotees would come and say that, we got it now, we understand you. You are Krishna, aren't you? Lord Caitanya would block his ears and say, no, and he'd call out, Vishnu, Vishnu, which you do, there's some offense there. Yeah, so Lord Caitanya, he's predominantly in the mood of Srimati Radharani. And as such, he's giving that mercy, demonstrating and giving the mercy of Srimati Radharani. So we as aspiring devotees, we're all new devotees, young devotees, beginners. I'm a new devotee. I've only been a devotee for 50 years, so I am a new devotee. How long have you been a devotee? 2 years. We're both new devotees. So we're all new devotees, even if you've been a devotee 30, 40, 50 years or more. We're still new devotees. And and you really got to try, you really got to take shelter of the Lord, of Srila Prabhupada, of the spiritual master, of the devotees in general. We really got to do that, and then we can progress. You may know, there's a nice story, Lord Caitanya. Lord Caitanya it was during the Mahaprakash Leela, if you're familiar with that. That's when Lord Caitanya, prior to that, he had not been presenting himself as God. He had started presenting himself as a devotee, but not as God yet. But then in that Mahaprakash Leela for 20 hours or 21 hours, something like that, Lord Caitanya, what he did in Srivas Thakur's house, in the courtyard where the altar was, and Srivas Thakur was worshipping Shalagram Shila, Lord Caitanya moved the Shalagram Shila to the side, right to the side of the altar, the top of the altar, and he sat on the altar. Now, none of you try to do that, all right? Nobody. We don't try to do that. So, in the Mahaprakash Leela, Lord Caitanya was talking about the need to develop devotion, the need to develop love and some real feeling for the Lord. You may remember on Friday night I played that little recording of Srila Prabhupada regarding Sanatana Goswami, Mother Mohan, and Prabhupada sure became overwhelmed there. It was really very amazing. Talking about the need to develop some feeling, some affection for the Lord. And in other words, not just be sort of mechanical about it, about Krishna consciousness. Actually, one time, Srila Prabhupada Bhakti Charu Maharaj told me that Srila Prabhupada had told him, Prabhupada actually raised a question, like a rhetorical question. Prabhupada said, "What is Krishna consciousness?" And then Prabhupada answered the question. Prabhupada said, Krishna consciousness means to develop a personal relationship with Krishna. Personal relationship with Krishna disguised as a process. It's disguised as a process. Process means you do this, you don't do that, you do something else, but you don't do another thing. You know, it's a process. Step 1, step 2, step 3. Yeah, it's disguised as a process. But actually, it's the development of a personal relationship with Krishna. So Lord Caitanya was talking about these things with his devotees. And Lord Caitanya referred to the story in the 10th canto of Lord Krishna entering Mathura with his cowherd boyfriends and meeting the washerman. If you're familiar with the 10th canto, I'm sure if you are, you would know that story. It's quite a story. There's Lord Krishna with his cowherd boyfriends, and they were really, how to put it, like tough guys. I mean, you're nice boys, but you're not really tough guys. But they're really tough guys. And they, just sort of, yeah, right, hey, what's going on there? boisterous young boys. So they met the washerman who was returning to Kamsa's palace with a whole big basket of freshly washed and ironed cloth belonging to Kamsa, the king. Yeah, he's the king's laundryman. So Krishna, he's a tough guy. Krishna walked up to him and said, "Hey, wouldn't you like to give us some of that cloth? Yes? Yes?
Yes, yes.
The man said, no. Yeah, because he's the king's laundry man. So he's a big man. Not really, but he felt he was a big man. So I just said, no. And you little boys, what right do you think you have to the king's clothes? Forget it. What you should do, go back to the forest and get some nice big leaves and put them together and make yourself some clothes like that. That was a big mistake, fatal error, as they say in computer terms, blue screen. The system crashed. Oh, Krishna, blue screen, Krishna, just got really angry. So Krishna All he did was give him a slap. Where I come from, not exactly come from, but where I'm based in Durban, South Africa, in the previous, going back about 20, 30 years, there was apartheid, the racial segregation program, heavy program. So all the Indians were in Indian areas, every single last one of them, areas where there's only Indians. And they developed their own kind of culture or language, in little things. And if you slap someone like that, give them a slap. It's called giving him a what's happened. You get it? Giving him a what happened? What happened? So Krishna gave him a good what happened. And the man, would you believe, the man's head fell off. Don't mess with Krishna, I tell you what. So the man's head fell off. And so Lord Caitanya is explaining this whole story to his devotees. And then Lord Caitanya said a really amazing thing. Listen to this. Lord Caitanya, and this is in Chaitanya Bhagavat, you can check it. Lord Caitanya said that washerman had performed severe austerities for many millions of lifetimes so he could see God. And now he got to see God. But because his heart was hard through austerity, when he saw God, he offended him. Yeah. And so we don't hear any more about what happened to the laundryman. Nothing further is said, actually, whether he went back to Godhead or what happened to him. Yeah. So, Lord Caitanya, this is what he said, that his pious deeds made him fortunate to see the Lord, Krishna, but still he could not feel happiness by seeing me, for he had no devotion to me. I do not give mercy to persons who have no devotion to me. I stop them from feeling happiness by seeing me. Offenses to devotional service destroy devotion. When devotion is absent, one has no power to reap the true result that comes from seeing me. Because he got to see the Lord. So I'm going to tell you another story now. I don't know, what time should we go on to? 8 o'clock? 9 o'clock? Yeah.
We have 15 minutes or so.
We have 15 minutes.
Or
more. Let's see how it goes. Okay, anyway, I'll tell you a nice story now, which, these ones I just told you, I don't know if you're familiar with them or not. I suppose some of you are, but this you may well be aware of. This is also Mahaprakash Leela of Lord Caitanya. There were different persons, different devotees approached the Lord during the Mahaprakash Leela. And Lord Caitanya, generally in the Mahaprakash Leela, he explained to them how they had met him previously, either in his previous incarnations or somehow or other before he had actually appeared 500 years ago, but not long before he appeared. For example, one devotee, Lord Caitanya said, you remember, you had a fever and it wouldn't reduce, and it seemed that you were going to die. And you tried to get a doctor, your relatives tried to get a doctor, couldn't find a doctor, and you just resigned yourself to giving up your life. And then suddenly, a doctor just walked through the door. Just walked through the door. Lord Caitanya said, it was me. I descended from Vaikuntha just to save you, just to save your life. And then I returned to Vaikuntha. So there were a number of instances like that which Lord Caitanya talks about at that point in the Mahaprakash Leela. For example, with Gangadas Pandit, you may be familiar with the story, but he was in his village and the Muslims attacked really heavily, coming from one side of the village across, and he was on the other side. So he grabbed his family and they just ran and ran, but then suddenly they came to the Ganges. And what to do? It's late, it's like midnight or something. So Lord Caitanya said that you looked up and down to see if there's a boat. There were no boats. And then you thought, well, I cannot face seeing what they're going to do to my wife and my daughters. So I'm just going to kill myself before they come. They were just coming. Then, Lord Caitanya said, do you remember suddenly a boat appeared out of nowhere? There were no boats, just no boats at all. Suddenly there's a boat there with a boatman. And Gangadas Pandit said, yes, I remember that. It was unbelievable. I just couldn't understand what had happened. But we jumped in. And Lord Caitanya said, yes. And he told the boatman, take us to the other side. I will give you my life. I will give everything. I will be your slave for the rest of my life. Please take us across. And Lord Caitanya said, that boatman, that was me. I descended from Vaikuntha to save you. So there's a number of situations like that that Lord Caitanya talked about then. And he's calling all the devotees and telling them, we met in this way, or when I appeared in this incarnation, we met. He called for Murari Gupta and said, Murari, look at me. Look at me. Tell me what you see. And Murari Gupta looks at him and looks at Lord Nityananda. And Murari says, oh, you have become Sita and Ram, and Nitai has become Lakshman. Oh, that's amazing. And he practically fainted. But then Murari said, but my Lord, there's one problem. Something is wrong. Where is Hanuman? And Lord Caitanya said, Murari, look at yourself, Murari. And he looked at himself, and he saw that he was Hanuman, because he is Hanuman. So Lord Caitanya is doing all these things, calling all these devotees for 20 hours or 21 hours, something like that. And it's in Srivas Thakur's house or his courtyard. And then after so many hours, Lord Caitanya said to Srivas, right, that's it. That's finished. We'll stop now. And Srila said, my Lord, you know, there's one devotee who you haven't called, maybe you forgot, but really nice devotee, and please call him and speak with him. Before I go any further in the story, there are two blessings which are given at the end of the story, but just to sort of tune you in, I'll tell you them now, so you listen carefully to the story. Blessings. Anyone who hears these prayers of Mukunda, was the devotee in question. Anyone who hears these prayers of Mukunda will sing with him. Anyone who feels happiness by hearing these narrations will certainly meet Lord Caitanya face to face. So devotees, I hope you're feeling happy already. Are you happy? You look happy, that's quite good. Are you happy?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Well, you're always happy, so okay. Anyway, right, let's be happy. So yeah, anyone who feels happiness by hearing these narrations will certainly meet Lord Caitanya face to face. So the person, the devotee in question, was Mukunda Dutt. He's the brother of Vasudev Dutt. I'm sure you've heard of Vasudev Dutt, who was the famous devotee who offered to accept all the sinful reactions of all the fallen conditioned souls on his own head and let them go back to Godhead. So Mukunda Dutt was his brother, and he was a kirtan singer. In fact, he was such a kirtan singer, devotees, when he would sing, sometimes rock would melt. Did rock ever melt when you sang? No. One time? Or when you sang? Really? Okay. Keep working on it. You never know. I tell you what, you never know. Yeah. So really amazing singer, incredible singer. So Srivas Thakur said, yeah, Mukunda Dutt, maybe you forgot. And Lord Caitanya said that Mukunda Dutt, that rascal, I never want to see him again. I deliberately didn't call him. I never, ever want to see him again, ever. Mukunda, as it happened, was just sort of around the corner, and he heard that. And when he heard that, he was devastated. And Srivas Thakur asked Lord Caitanya, why? What offense has he committed? And Lord Caitanya explained, this man, I know he sings nicely, and he's very friendly, he gets on with all the devotees, everyone likes him, but actually, he's a rascal, he's a hypocrite. He is like someone who comes up to you, offering you a nice fragrant flower to give to you, but his other hand is behind his back, and in the other hand is an iron club. And when you take the flower, like, oh, thank you, bang, he hits you with the club. He's like that. He's terrible. And Lord Caitanya explained that whoever he is with, he acts like them. So when he's with the devotees, he acts like the devotees. But when he's with the Mayavadis, it's all one. We're all God. Very good. And when he is with the Shivites, the Shivites, then it's Om Namo Shivaya. Or, there's a verse actually, Shivastu Bhagavan Swaya. In Shiva Purana. Yeah, and when he's with the worshippers of Durga, they're the same thing. Durga Stu Bhagavan Swaya. Yeah. It doesn't matter who he's with. He just becomes like them. So I reject him. He's a hypocrite. He's not a real devotee. So tell him, just tell him, I will never see him again ever. So Srivas went out to explain this all, and he explained it all to Mukunda. And Mukunda said, you know, the thing is this, I live in a, like what do you call it, like an extended family situation. All my uncles and cousins and aunts and grandparents and, you know, we all live together. And they all have different ideas. So, you know, I can't just fight with them all the time. So I just agree with them when I'm with them. But it's not that I believe it. I feel I'm forced to. So, Srivas returned to Lord Caitanya, explained a little, and said, my Lord, you know, understanding that, will you be willing to see him again? And Lord Caitanya said, all right. I'll see him. He can see me after 10 million lifetimes. And Mukunda was just there, just around the corner. He heard that. 10 million lifetimes. Imagine if they said it to you. Well, if they said it to me, I'd think, what? 10 million lifetimes, it's not fair. But not Mukunda. He became ecstatic. He was dancing and shouting and rolling and screaming. Only 10 million lifetimes, and I will see him again. Oh, what mercy, what mercy. And he became so overwhelmed, and he's shouting and screaming, mercy, only 10 million lifetimes. Lord Chaitanya said, what's going on out there? And they said, well, it's Mukunda. He's so happy he's going to see you in 10 million lifetimes. And Lord Caitanya said, oh, just bring him now. So they went out to get him, but they couldn't catch him because he was jumping and rolling and flying and running so wildly they couldn't catch him initially. Eventually they caught him and they brought him before Lord Caitanya. And Lord Caitanya said, actually, I was just testing you. Because I knew what your character is and I wanted to see it. So devotees, you know, we can learn from that a number of things. One of the main things is the Lord may well test us. And test means it's really a test. It's not just sort of playing around, but actually testing you to your limits. So you never know, devotees. It may happen to you. Be ready as much as you're able and keep chanting. But, you know, one of our devotees, Haribol. Back and forth. So, yeah, one of our old devotees, maybe some of you knew Tribhuvannath Prabhu.
Yeah.
Did you know him?
Yeah.
Yeah. Really amazing devotee. I knew him very well in the 70s. And he told me that he asked Prabhupada, will Krishna ever give a devotee a test which the devotee will just not be able to pass? And the devotee will just fail and no possibility of not failing, and the devotee will just fall down. So he asked Prabhupada that, and Srila Prabhupada said no. Krishna will never give the devotee a test which the devotee cannot pass. But some tests, they're real tests, and you really got to take shelter of the Lord and pray and chant like this. But if you do that really from the heart, then you'll be able to pass the test. And not just pass the test, but it will be an educational experience for you. You'll learn about Krishna consciousness and how to develop your Krishna consciousness. So there you go, devotees. There's that story. So anyone who hears these prayers of Mukunda will sing with him. And anyone who feels happiness by hearing these narrations will certainly meet Lord Caitanya face to face. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Shri Caitanya Mahaprabhu Ki. Srila Prabhupada Ki. God bring them there. That's all, folks. Okay.
His Holiness Bhakti Chaitanya Swami Maharaj Ki.
Okay. So yeah. Huh? I know. Okay, I know. Okay, yes.
Questions?
Huh?
Should we take some questions?
Okay.
Is there any questions?
Any questions, comments, words of wisdom, disagreements? Mataji. Loud and clear.
Thank you, Maharaj, for giving us such an amazing, transcendental absorption of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's missions. And I like what he said about, the austerity. The austerity, this laundryman, the dhobi did, his heart became hard-hearted. I pray to Shri Gondita, I pray to you, to pray to Srila Prabhupada, my Guru Maharaj, that we, the Hare Krishna devotees, we do the austerity, reaching out to the conditioned souls, but not to become hard-hearted, to become soft-hearted, to give Krishna to them.
Right. Thank you. Blessings. Ashirvad. Well, we should have Prabhupada, at least one of the things I was told when I first joined the temple in London in 1973, one of the first things I was told was that Srila Prabhupada had said that for us, one day of Sankirtan on the streets is equal to 10,000 years of austerities by these yogis and these people, Yeah. So that's our austerity. And of course, our austerity, chant our rounds, follow the principles, and just live the lives of devotees, but particularly we're to spread Krishna consciousness. Sankirtan Yajna is the Yuga Dharma. Worshipping the deity, it's very nice, it's very important. It's from Dwapara Yuga, to be specific, although we have to engage in it. But for us, the real thing is the Sankirtan Yajna, one way or another, to help spread Prabhupada's movement, Lord Chaitanya's movement, in whatever ways we can, by chanting Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Bol. Or distribute Prabhupada's books. Or distribute prasadam. Or arrange festivals, Rath Yatra, and there are all sorts of things that can be done actually to spread Krishna consciousness. That's our austerity. Instead of thinking about ourselves, I, me, and mine, think of how to help the people, because they are, beyond desperately in need of help. It's inconceivable how much they're in need of help, but also to help Prabhupada further his mission, because that's what he lived for, to spread the movement and to save the people. So, but that austerity will not harden the heart. If you do some, sit in one place in the snow with just a gumsha on for 48 hours without moving, it's an austerity. Or some of these austerities, the Kumbh Mela, you get these people who are doing austerities, maybe I shouldn't even mention because it might put you off your prasadam. Like hold one arm up for the rest of your life. Yeah, don't take your hand down again. And your arm becomes withered, like skin and bone. And clench your fist for years. But you know what happens? Your fingernails keep growing, and they come out the back of your hand. Yeah, these are austerities. Or stay standing up 24/7 for years and years. Don't sit down, don't lie down, stay standing up. I don't think these are very suitable for us. So our austerity is to spread the movement. And not just spread the movement, but give people. It's an act of giving. And that act of giving softens the heart. If you're always taking and taking, it'll harden the heart. But if you're giving and giving, it'll soften the heart. So that's Lord Chaitanya's movement, that's Prabhupada's movement. Austerity. It can be a bit austere out there for hours and hours every day. And sometimes people are not very nice to you. It can be a real austerity, but it's an austerity which softens the heart. So that's our good fortune to have that sort of austerity. And you are really into it. So keep up the good work. Anyone else? Yes. Why did Lord Chaitanya want to test Mukunda even though he knew his heart? Well, see, one point was that Mukunda, in his sort of trying to be diplomatic with his relatives, he actually became influenced by them. To some degree. So there was some element of offense involved. And Lord Chaitanya wanted to cleanse him of that offense. But otherwise, the thing is, like why, you could say why, did Lord Krishna put the Pandavas into all the difficulties he put them in. My gosh. The thing is that when great devotees are put into difficulty, for them it's not really difficulty because they're transcendental. But they're demonstrating for people like us how to deal with difficult situations and not become overwhelmed. Yeah, so the Pandavas, they're demonstrating that for us. And others like Maharaj Parikshit. Maharaj Parikshit was arranged by the Lord that he be cursed so that Bhagavatam could be spoken. So in order to establish a lesson, you could say, or very important lessons, things like this are done. Maharaj Yudhisthira, after the battle of Kurukshetra, the Lord put him into illusion to think that all these people, millions of people died just so I could become the king, just for my benefit. The Lord placed him in that sort of illusion so that Bhishma could be glorified by preaching to Maharaj Yudhisthira. Krishna could always have just explained to Yudhisthira that listen, it's not like that. But he wanted Bhishma Dev to do that for his glorification. So the Lord chooses these special devotees, and Mukunda is a very special devotee, placed him in this kind of very strange situation with his family. Just so the good quality of Mukunda could come out, particularly that 10 million lifetimes, I'll see the Lord in 10 million lifetimes. That's great. I'm really happy. So devotees can see that. Yeah. How does that sound? Anyone else? Devotees, friends? We don't want to delay. Anyone's got anything else? Don't want to delay Prasad. Okay.
His Holiness Bhakti Caitanya Swami Maharaj Ki Jai. So, first of all, I'd like to thank Maharaj for his time. Maharaj is a very busy person, and we know, so we're very grateful for your time that you've given here in Leicester so far. Of course, it doesn't stop there. For those, there's still a couple of programs this week.